If you're new in town or just new to this whole podcast thing, you're tuning in to Law by Night, the podcast that discusses all things vampiric with no fear of breaching the Masquerade. In this episode, we shall discuss the Road of the Beast, one of the philosophical roads of enlightenment adopted by Cainites to control the beast, to help you roleplay seemingly beastly vampires. All vampires feign their humanity. It is a concept that cannot work for us, for we are no longer human. We are the bastard child of Cain, punished by God and the archangels to walk the lands forevermore, whose tainted blood has ruined countless lives. My eternal existence has been significantly improved because of my embrace, but that is neither here nor there, for most kindred do not share this mindset. All neonates and some ancilla try to convince themselves they are in touch with that humanity, that they have the beast under control. Now, perhaps they are right. Perhaps they do have their beast on a tight leash. They've put their own rules and restrictions on themselves and, by extension, it, the beast. This in of itself is all the evidence needed to prove that humanity does not work. You are a vampire. You fear succumbing to the beast, for that is the worst thing a vampire can do. And yet, if you do not let that beast out every so often and satiate its needs, the forces around you, both supernatural and mundane, will bring about your final death. You are damned either way. But you know, child, that is not entirely true. Not all vampires make an effort to hide their beast. Some pummel their humanity into oblivion and revel in their vampiric nature. This is a very basic and bastardized description of the Sabbat, which is just as much as most members of the Ivory Tower will share with you, for that is all they know. From this, you would assume that all Sabbat follow this path. Ha! You are very mistaken. I had mentioned previously that most Sabbat follow the path of humanity, as most are neonates after all, some of which are just embraced en masse as shock troops and wouldn't know anything better. To be Sabbat, you are a vampire. To follow the road of the beast, you belong to the beast. It is divinity, the true face of your soul, the other root path that I mentioned last time. This does not mean that the beast is in control. Those are wights. There is, however, some confusion between the two. Wights are senseless monsters that will throw themselves if it can get the chance to feed or kill. Followers of the road and path of the beast, the so-called bestials, are predators that hunt for survival. They exalt the idea that vampires are the greatest of all hunters, the pinnacle of the food chain. A predator relies on instinct that is honed by experience, which is guided by feral cunning. Wights only have instinct. The road of the beast teaches survival, violence, strength, and balance, and, on occasion, the wisdom of the hunt. It tears away the pitfalls that lies and wishful thinking often brings. Falsehood is obliterated, as the bestial becomes a fearsome creature with astonishing perception. Do you see the difference now? Whether it is Sabbat or a Dark Ages prince, those who were wise knew better, trying to directly influence that creature. Oh yes, neonate. Princes allowed Cainites on this path to exist, seeing them more as unruly berserkers. Again, this is rather inaccurate. Unlike its counterpart, the Road of Humanity, the Road of the Beast is not one for formalities. There are no schools or cults surrounding the path. As such, there are no real teachers or priests to lecture some sacred doctrine or pass on ancient texts, only a mentor that only stays to teach the basics. There are no sermons or prayers one must follow, but it was common practice for one to utter a few words to the beast before the hunt, asking for fleetness, a challenging hunt, and the beast not to take control, but guide it through the hunt. It was also customary for these prayers, for lack of a better word, to serve the opposite effect, to calm the mind, body, and soul after a hunt and when it is in stress. That is not to say that this is a road without outside learning and some semblance of structure or history. The Road of the Beast is as old as vampire existence, an ancient phenomenon that has been moulded to the best one can into a followable path of ethics for Cainites, thanks to the gangrel of old. Yes, the gangrel are the most common followers of the road. In any case, some records about the earliest histories of the road do exist, be it in the form of word of mouth and some semi-abstract cave painting. It is the job of the lawkeepers to archive these and pass it down to initiates, in addition to collecting and regaling the tales of others on this road. In addition to these ancient stories, the tales about the birth of Cain as a vampire, the fall of the Second City, and the lessons of Honoria, the gangrel antediluvian who is said to be the founder of the road. Whilst these stories are cautionary ones, they also serve to purify at the heart that the Road of Beast is the one true path for vampires. This is a fact. Vampires have always struggled with its hunger, and followers of the road indulge in these predatory urges. Again, the beast does not assume dominance over the Cainite. Do note that these lawkeepers are not librarians. They have to travel far and wide to collect their lore, and are still followers of the Road of the Beast. And whilst we are on the topic, there are also wardens who uphold and maintain sacred places for their informal rituals, the most notable of which being Cain's Valley, the hidden and fertile land in the Holy Land where Cain was said to have killed Abel. I have not made the journey myself, for I'm told that it is impeccably dangerous to get there, and that is not considering the dense political upheaval at the time of this discussion at least. There is also Honoria's Theatre, an amphitheatre on the outskirts of Athens where she first taught the first of her descendants how to control the beast via the Road of the Beast. Obviously. As you can imagine, practically all who follow the path are distrusted and claim their domains in the wilderness, which was much easier during our Dark Ages where cities and towns are few and far in between. Hunting in new places was much easier for similar reasons. Bestials lacked any real interest for political dances of Elysium. As such, you would be hard-pressed to find many ferals in the city, the proper nickname for the followers of the path. Sprawling metropolises are not the inherent natural habitat. That does not mean, however, that they are environmental activists that would disregard the traditions. Well, they are only responsible for themselves, do not care for limitations of the embrace, and do not fear the mortals, but that is besides the point. They know their natural habitats are on the decline. Should they wish to slow the rate of the decline, they would be wise to occasionally enter a city and work with the rulers of the land. To be allied with a feral is a very good thing indeed. Followers of this road are incredibly loyal and will serve you well and help you protect domains, but they will not sacrifice anything for you if they do not get something of equal weight in return. Survival is their first concern, and anything that gets in the way of that is not worth pursuing. They will never give you their domain, especially if it is for part of politics. One should not shit where they eat, and if they think you are screwing them over and feel their unlife is at risk, they will show you no mercy. Rarely will you find two bestials seeking the company of each other, unless they enter a pack mentality. By pack, I do not necessarily mean Sabat pack, although I do admit there is some crossover. What I mean is that they become like a pack of wolves to, pardon the pun, or a pride of lions, or a group of, well, any other predatory animal you can think of. They will hunt and fight each other, and even kill if need calls for it. The strongest will lead the pack until they fall or show weakness. Such packs are temperamental, only forming to serve a specific purpose, such as removing a lupine, for example. There are some exceptions to this though. Individual members may choose to keep in touch with each other, somehow, but the pack will generally disband once this particular sort of hunt has ceased. Beyond this, relationships among adherents of the road tend to be limited between sire and child, or some sort of teacher-mentor figure relationship thing. Now this may sound familiar to you, for this is basically the gangrel sire-child embrace in a nutshell. You can also find this relationship with Nosferatu and Bruja on the path, in addition to a very small selection of the Ravnos clan. Anyone on this path, or the various subpaths for that matter, are not known for their appearances or hygiene, for that matter. Function over fashion, really, which can mean that the feral wears next to nothing, sliding in and out of forms and the earth with protean. To them, their mortal frame is just another cloak they adorn. Nakedness is irrelevant to them. The use of fortitude, celerity, animalism, auspex, and obfuscate are all useful disciplines when they are on the prowl, but some deem them cheating during the hunt. Just ask Absamiliard. Actually, do not do that. That is a terrible idea. One thing you may have heard regarding this path is that the road promotes the practice of diablerie. This is false. Whilst the needs of the beast are indeed paramount, the beast does not desire to become stronger, to increase in power. It only wishes to survive and trust solely on instinct. This means that they are not inherently cruel by any means, as death by the Amaranth is a terrifying concept with far too many risks for the Diablerist to be. A failed Diablerie causes the adjacent soul to control the attempted Diablerist, which essentially kills the individual. Again, survival is one's first concern. But for a shred of simpler, cleaner evidence to dismiss this foolish narrative, the bestials do not kill when they feed. Through these teachings, some treat the Road of the Beast as if it were an extension of the Road of Heaven. After all, God did place the beast within us kindred. Hold on to that thought as I share with these subpaths of the road. Whereas the road and path of the beast place the emphasis on survival, those who swear by the path of the hunter almost solely dedicate themselves for the thrill of the hunt. Unless you offered them a rewarding kill after a challenging hunt, it is pretty much impossible to pull them from their domains. An interesting thing about these Cainites that if they have to mingle with vampiric society, they will excel at it, simply because they have such frightening focus. Most followers on the path of the beast have a disdain for civilization. Those on the path of the savage despise them, putting their beast first before anything else. As such, this was the most short-sighted path. They are killers through and through, with nothing to contribute. Some would argue that this hatred stems from the ancient days of Enoch's destruction, claiming that it was not due to the squabbling of Cain's brood, but the children of Seth. Oddly, it was mostly Bruja that followed this path, twisting old Viking traditions. This is not a true depiction of beastly Viking Cainite behaviour, however, as those gangrel Vikings who followed the Road of the Slain would tell you. From my limited understanding, this road is almost identical to the Road of the Beast, but where it differs is that the Road of the Slain teaches the way to control the beast is to follow the traditions of Norse tradition through honour, not pure savagery. Like the Vikings and others on the Road of the Beast, those who follow the path of the Nomad and the lesser-known path of Journeys don't stick to one place for that often. The path of the Nomad was most popular with the Ravnos and Malkavians, who both fear civilization for what they are or have a great wanderlust. You set yourself your own limits, not allowing anybody to cage up one's potential. To some, this also extends to the number of possessions one may own. They try and emulate Cain and Honoria, who both walked in solitude. These are the most solitary of ferals, as one might expect, and were known for being trustworthy messengers for others. There are a couple of odd anomalies within the Road of the Beast. The path of the Grey Hunter are the ones who dance the political dances and taught to thrive in such circumstances. It is not easy by any means, as I'm sure you can imagine, but it is possible to receive the same thrill toppling prey and rival that way. However, one must never stray too far from the path's most basic of beliefs: hunt, kill, and instinctual survival. The aforementioned savages don't consider them true followers of the Road of the Beast and will kill them on sight. The path of the Liberation is similar to the Grey Hunters, but with a difference of toppling the hierarchy to ensure the protection of the wilds. Civilization is both a lie and a trap upheld and maintained by princes. They go, so does everyone else destroying their homes. The last two paths I wish to share with you are paths found within the modern path of the Beast. The first of which is the path of the Feral Heart. This subpath takes the main ideas of the path of the Beast and uses it as a philosophical backdrop to aid the crusade against the antediluvians. It stresses that the hunters, the vampires, are superior to humans, the prey. It differs from the main path of the Beast only by pack mentality. This time I mean Sabbat pack. A pack grants survival, a lone wolf cannot. Alone, you are doomed to your own destruction. Together, you may prosper. To kill in defense is not murder, but a mere necessity. The path of the Feral Heart was actually birthed from a subpath called the Path of Harmony, as there were some who wanted spiritual dimension to the vampiric state but wanted acceptance into the Sabbat. As the title would subtly imply, it teaches that in order to be sane, one must find balance between vampire and beast, acknowledging you are a vampire. Yes, they know they are beasts and vampires, but they are wise enough to know that the beast can eradicate one's humanity, your emotions, and intellect. No, they are not a humane option. They know the mortals are prey. To be humane is a wasted philosophy in their minds. This harmony also extends to the balance of nature and machine and Cain and Cainite, mindsets that all feral should have, but the harmonists place that as their focus. So much so, in fact, they foolishly made their discontent known to the Sabbat. Not many followers of this path exist as a result. If you were to ask a Ventrue or Toreador in Elysium or the Zemitzi or La Sombra bishop about this path, they would insist that such a lowly path does not exist. Yes, the two leaders of the Sabbat, the ones who are the ones to follow into the forefront of the Gehenna conflict, do not acknowledge the path of the beast as a true path. Ironic, is it not? The path of the beast is the oldest of roads of enlightenment after or possibly before the road of humanity. We have always been the ultimate predators, setting traps and ruses to overcome our prey and the rival competition. To overcome and adapt to the changing climate is what makes a true predator survive the coming ages. One must hunt no matter where they find themselves or perish. In our world, good and evil does not exist. What we do, morals bears very little weight and should truly be ignored. This is the basics of the vampiric condition, and anything else, humanity, touchstones, politics, sex, love, lust, and drugs are all self-gratifying distractions. To be kept updated, follow the Law by Night VTM Twitter and Instagram pages to find out when we will upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, as you will be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time, farewell.